Okay, so to install the subwoofer, it's actually really easy. It only took me really about 30 minutes to an hour, and most of that was just trying to tuck the wires underneath the plastic of the car to hide them. The actual wiring part of it is really easy. So what you want to do is you want to take a, I think it was 16 gauge wire up to the positive terminal of the battery. Make sure you have a fuse on it really close, 7.5 amp fuse, and then run the wire along through the firewall to get to the radio. For my car, since it's a manual transmission, the shifter was going through the firewall, so I just used that. But usually there's something by the pedals, like a rubber grommet that you can cut and stick a wire through. Now for the install inside the car, it's really not that hard. All you have to do is run the line from the Bazooka tube in the back. I ran mine underneath the plastic all the way up through there. And it's coming out here. You can see these little quick connect ends that make things really easy if you have to manually wire up the plus and minus for the left and right speakers. But if your head unit has two RCA jacks for sub out like this, you can just use these blue ones here. Connect one to the left, one to the right to power the sub. If not, you're going to have to use these guys. You have to figure out which on your radio harness is the left and right plus or minus for the back speakers and connect them accordingly to these ones. You have to look in the manual for that. It's a little more involved, but most head units, especially aftermarket ones, have these RCA jacks, which make it really easy. I find the same quality with both for sound, so RCAs are good. Now that power line that you ran from the battery, you want to connect to the red one that's going to the Bazooka. Now mine's wired up with this mess of a relay for the switch up here. You don't have to do that, you can just run it directly to the speaker if you want it to be on all the time. But if you want to do an interrupter, I actually recommend putting the switch onto this remote line here. Yeah, this blue one. The blue wire from the Bazookas, it's very important that you connect that. I was having a big issue with it before. See, I have the remote connected so that it needs power to tell the Bazooka to be on. Otherwise, it's going to use this automatic power on feature, which will determine whether to be on or off based on whether music's flowing through it or not. But when I had that running, this subwoofer was cutting out every 30 seconds. It would only cut out for a second, but it was really annoying because you'd be listening to music with all the bass, and all of a sudden the bass would drop out for a second, and it would repeat that over and over again. It was really annoying. But it was because I didn't have this blue remote wire hooked up. You have to hook up the remote wire and remove that yellow clip-on loop from the tube. That's how you fix that problem. A lot of people were thinking it's an overheating issue, but it's not. It's just as simple as that. The instructions weren't very clear on the fact that you have to do that. It seemed like it was only an option for if you wanted it to be remote controlled via a button, but apparently it's more important than that. So lastly, when you come around to the tube here, you got to connect it to ground, which you can do at any metal part of the car. I just attached it to the screw that was already there to hold the seat clip. But any part of the car that's metal will do fine. It comes with a loop that's already on it. Makes it really easy if there's already a bolt you can find. And then just hook up the harness to the tube and you're all done. Yeah, and as you'll notice here, it's important that you take, there should be a yellow loop there, but you want to take that out. Otherwise it's going to be in the automatic power on feature, which honestly doesn't work that well. I find just put the remote wire to power. If you want it to be on all the time, just put it to power so it's always on, or you can put it to a switch so that it's only on when you want it to. It's as simple as that. It's not a hard install. As I said, only took less than an hour for sure, and that was mostly just to hide all the wires underneath the plastic, because that's a real pain in the butt. Okay, just in case I didn't make myself clear with the wiring for this, here's a couple diagrams I drew. So if you're going to use the RCA cables, you want to go from the battery, positive terminal, put a 7.5 amp fuse, run that to the 12 volt positive red wire that goes down to the Bazooka. Also put the ground of the Bazooka onto metal somewhere, just somewhere in the car that's grounded. Remember to remove that yellow loop so both those ends are disconnected. Then at the head unit, you want to take your RCA left and right from the Bazooka, put those into the left and right RCA inputs on the head unit. And lastly, you're going to take your remote wire from the Bazooka and wire it to a switch if you want to be able to switch it on and off, but at the end result you want to put it to there should be an accessory mode wire on the head unit which will only receive power when the car is on, so that way your Bazooka is not going to be on all the time even when the key is not in the ignition. So yeah, just make sure you do that. And it's very similar if you're going to use it using the high level inputs if you don't have the RCA inputs on your head unit. So the power to the battery is exactly the same wire, ground is the same, auto loop is the same. It's just here is, oh, I forgot the remote in this one. Remote will be exactly the same, but what you want to do is you want to take the plus and minus for each of the rear left speakers. The head unit's going to have a lot of wires coming out of the harness. It's going to have 2 for each speaker. There should be 1 in each corner of the car, front left, front right, rear left and rear right. You got to find the rear left and right plus and minus ones and connect them to the corresponding left and right rear plus or minus for the Bazooka, and then just use the quick connect to stick it, tap into those wires. It's not hard, only takes a couple of minutes. It's just more wires you have to do. Yeah, don't forget you need the remote like this one. I forgot to draw it on this diagram, but yeah, that's how you wire it up. It's not hard. Only takes probably 10-20 minutes max.